Hi everyone, welcome to Ethernal Realms and welcome to the month ahead astrology reading. Make sure you check your sun, moon, and rising signs for a comprehensive view of the month. Additionally, I would recommend watching the tarot reading of the month ahead to get a different perspective. While you will know the astrology in advance through this session, I will also send you a reminder when the astrological events are near. All you have to do is subscribe, hit the bell, and you will be notified as the events occur through my community page. I occasionally post behind the scenes, meditation guidance, quizzes, and polls, which you can check out for yourself. And it goes without saying that you will be notified when new videos are out, such as other zodiac readings and pick a card tarot readings as well. If you prefer to cut down the guesswork about your month ahead, you can always connect with me via Etsy to get a personalized week-by-week month ahead tarot reading paired with the general astrology. Enough about me, let's talk about you. So let's talk the overview of September. Okay, I'm going to divide this into separate storylines. There are a couple of things happening in parallel, and at some points in time, different things are being activated. So just the general themes going on here. Let's talk about the first one. Is that in the month of September, there are going to be lots of changes on the personal level. And that's because we have Mercury and Venus changing direction. Both of them are going to go direct. And whenever that happens, on especially the personal planets of, the Venus, Mercury, even Mars, we experience lots of shifts in our own mindset and how we go about life. Okay, so on a personal level, lots of changes. But apart from that, we also have Jupiter going retrograde on the same day that Venus goes direct. And that's interesting because it's sort of like both of them are moving in parallel, but they're moving in opposite directions. So they kind of see each other, but they can't really meet at this point. So when Jupiter was active, Venus was not, and now Venus is active, so Jupiter is not. And that's going to be an interesting dynamic to see. But apart from that, we also have Saturn in retrograde, Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto in retrograde. So everything is retrograde for like the first few days of the month, and then slowly one by one things start going direct. That is Mercury and Venus. So whenever the bigger planets are retrograde, they're retrograde for a longer time compared to Mercury, let's say. So whatever changes occur on that level, we are more susceptible to absorbing because we don't quite understand it, or it's not yet conscious and it's kind of happening in the background, or this is like involuntary changes that we were not initiating but is introduced through the universe. Okay, so it's sort of a time where the universe is speaking louder than we are able to speak. Okay, so there will be less resistance as a result of this. That's the plus side. We are able to accept the guidance and the intuitive nudges much more easily. And because Mercury, Venus are direct, we are able to kind of incorporate that in a personal level. For example, if you feel like your belief system is not doing you any favors, or that the structures you have in your life are not working in your favor, then there is this opportunity to shift those things. But that initial feeling is going to be the universe speaking. That's the trigger that comes from your soul, from your subconscious, whatever. So yes, there will be changes in beliefs, priorities, and mindsets with Jupiter, Venus, and Mercury changing directions. The next story that's happening is that our focus this month is shifting when the sun is moving from Virgo season into Libra season. So when the sun is in Virgo, there's also a lot of earth activities, earth trines, conjunctions, movements, and so on, right? So there's a lot of earthly matters which are going to happen, and it's going to be a dynamic phase because, again, Mercury is in an earth sign in Virgo, and it changes direction, which changes, again, the flow of things. When the sun moves into Libra, we're going to talk more about relationships and communication, what commitment means or partnership means, and how to find equality and balance and all of that. And this is going to be a more rejuvenating phase because Venus is out of shadow by the time, or at least, it is really, really getting out of shadow almost. So it's going to be, whenever a planet comes out of retrograde phase, basically it is essentially rested and rejuvenated. So it's kind of gaining power through the post-shadow phase, and then it's going to fully glow in its eminence, basically, right? So in Libra season, Venus, the ruler of Libra, is going to come into full strength. So this is going to be rewarding, rejuvenating, not only for relationships, but also financial matters. Another theme to talk about is that there are 6 trines this month. All of them are Earth, which is awesome, which means we have physical blessings, material blessings. And we have 1 conjunction, also Earth, which means there is some emphasis days, which we'll talk about when we get into it. We do have 2 squares, and both of them have Venus involved in it. Okay, so the first one is going to be a direct Venus squaring with Jupiter, who's retrograde. And this is going to be an interesting one because, like I mentioned, going parallel but in opposite direction. And there can be this ideology that we adopt around this time that maybe we and our goals are not able to meet, or our value system, our belief system, they are not able to meet. Okay, so if we move with that assumption, it's not going to do us any favors. It can just seem like we're doing a lot of things but we're going nowhere. That's what it can seem like. But that does not have to be that way. Okay, now keep in mind, Venus in this square is going to be in shadow phase, and that is again indicating that Venus is not yet in full power, so it can't really help Jupiter with much, or it can't really do anything. It can't share the experience as such. It's just going about in its own lane. And Jupiter is in retrograde, so it's kind of in that asleep state, so it's not able to exert itself fully around this time either. So with that, if you mix in the square, the illusion or the assumption that we don't have power, or that we still have a lot of other things to be taken care of before we start moving towards our goals, that can be quite strong. But the plus side is, if we remove that assumption, that initial thing, and just go with things with an open mind, an open heart, and just give it a shot, it's not going to be this way. It is actually quite blissful. It can help you recognize what you're really looking for in life and all of that. We'll get into the actual effects more as I talk about your zodiac. Next, the other square is also with Venus direct, but this square, she's out of shadow. Okay, she's going to square with Uranus. And what's interesting is Uranus is going to be retrograde, right? So all this month of August and even July, Venus was squaring with Uranus. In the first phase, she was going into shadow, so she was losing strength. So Uranus was kind of winning this square, let's say. In the second month, in August, Venus was fully in retrograde, so she was not in the mood to contest with Uranus's whims and fancies. Okay, so again, Uranus wins that. This would be the first time where Venus is stronger and Uranus is kind of like, okay, well, I've made whatever I needed to make as a change, and what do you have to say? And what's even more interesting is that Venus also rules Taurus, where Uranus is sitting. So she can really dictate how we're going to take advantage of the changes that have already happened, the breakthroughs we have made, the realizations that have occurred in the months of July and September. Venus is now going to put that into context, put a more pleasant spin to it. Like, it doesn't have to be so drastic. We can, take it one step at a time and make the best of it. So all in all, it seems a little optimistic. And we also have an opposition. That's the only opposition. So one opposition, one conjunction. In opposition, we have Virgo again being involved, but here we're going to learn to balance the emotion side of it. So it's nice that we don't have a completely practical and logical month, which generally happens when we have so much Virgo and Libra presence, but we also have a little bit of emotion mixed in there, so we're able to kind of come back to center. Okay, fourth storyline, let's talk about the moon phases. We have a new moon in Virgo along with Mercury going direct. That's going to be on the 15th. And we also have a full moon in Libra on the 29th. And this is going to be the date that Venus squares with Uranus. So both days we have some important events occurring. So these lunar phases are not going to be boring, to say the least. We'll talk about it a lot more when we get into your zodiac. But in essence, new moons talk about new potentials and new beginnings. Meanwhile, full moons talk about completion of a cycle or pivoting into a new direction. Quite fateful. There can be external help and triggers that kind of show us and point where we should be headed next, basically. Now, the fifth storyline is that eclipse is coming about very soon. So September is sort of a drum roll phase. And at first, we might not feel it too much because we're kind of busy with the whole slumber of all the planets being retro. Then on the 4th, Venus goes direct and so on and so forth. So slowly we start waking up and getting into the mode of realizing the fateful changes that the eclipses are going to bring. Because those fated changes, they are, again, universally directed. And because so many of these outer planets are retrograde, we are, like I mentioned, we don't have that much resistance. We're more accepting of what's coming in. So this is going to be an interesting eclipse season in October, and we're starting to see what it could be about. Okay? All right, let's start with your specific reading. So Aries, let's first talk about the planets changing directions. These are going to be some big events that's happening in this month. So on the 4th, we have Jupiter turning retrograde and Venus turning direct. This is quite interesting. Both of them are benefic planets. They are at square aspects, Leo squares with Taurus. They're not making any direct aspects at this time, but by house, they are at a tension angle. But it's interesting that both of them are kind of changing signs, but in opposite directions. They're moving sort of parallel to each other so they can see each other, but they're not yet agreeing. They're not meeting at a conclusion. So just as we are realizing what we enjoy, what we don't enjoy, we are now getting into the next phase of learning about ourselves, of what our belief systems are, what holds us back, how can we create more abundance and expand our lifestyle and all of that. So for you, with Jupiter in Taurus, that's going to light up your finances, your self-worth, values, and priorities. What are your beliefs surrounding these areas of life? What do you believe about wealth and prosperity? What do you need in order to create more wealth for yourself, be it internal, emotional, or it can be even material because it's an earth sign? How can you support yourself and others more? How are you categorizing independence? Like, to what extent are you independent? What do you need to feel sufficient and as though you can give to others? What do you need in order to cultivate this security? There are going to be many questions regarding this, and Jupiter is a far-off planet. The cycle is quite big, so it's not going to be all at once on the 4th itself, everything starting out, but it's just that in terms of astrology, this is where the shifts kind of begin, first at a more metaphysical level, and then it starts becoming more conscious as Jupiter makes aspects throughout this month and beyond with other personal planets. Now let's talk about the Venus going direct. That's in your 5th house of creativity, love, children, inner child, joy, hobbies and entertainment, your love life and dating, romance as well. So Venus has been here for quite some time now. It went into Leo and then it went retrograde there. So lots has been happening in this particular house here. Finally, in September, as she turns direct, there is likelihood of understanding your desires much more. And that is going to have a beneficial outcome in your area of finances, priorities, self-worth, as well as your relationships and other one-to-one connections, how others see you, how you project yourself into the world, and all of that is going to be benefited as well. So for example, it can be you going on a date and it's a fancy date, it's a luxurious date, or it can be you pampering yourself, doing something and splurging on something that it just really brings you joy and kind of ups your worth. But at the same time, because Jupiter is retrograde around this time, you might be like, well, do I really value this, or is this, somewhat of a small little pleasures of life? There's nothing wrong with that, but it's important to know what's what, right? Okay, now next we have Mercury. Yes, Mercury turns direct. That's on the 15th. We're just talking about the planets right now, and then we'll get into the aspects in just a moment. So Mercury turns direct in the sign of Virgo. Mercury rules Virgo, and that's going to be on the 15th, right? So all the analysis, research, and investigation that Mercury has done while being here, investigating what quality of products or lifestyle to maintain, any routine changes might have happened, some clarity could have come out here, the way you work, the way you move about in your home and in the world, How do you come to service? How can you better yourself or your services, etc.? All those things can now be incorporated. Signing new contracts are as well possible. For you, it is falling in that 6th house. So as I was mentioning, lifestyle routines, how you work, how you come to service, all of that kind of are doubly enhanced in this particular house. So there can be some new ideas you come up with of how you can exercise or how you can improve your diet or routine so it doesn't feel like you're cooking all the time, nor does it feel like you're working all the time, right? So how can you move things around and adapt according to your current circumstances? Work can go ahead, like I said. You can make whatever purchases you need to make for investing in your workspace and all of that. Just keep in mind, again, with Jupiter retrograde as a theme, that there is also in the backdrop a re-evaluation that's going on of, do I really need this? Do I actually believe in this? Maybe my beliefs are changing. What I thought I would need to get myself here, it's not really the case. So what does that mean for my life and all of that? Okay, that's a more grand scheme, but in general, for the mundane activities, it's a go-ahead time. Let's talk about the aspects now. Majorly, there are lots of trines. Okay, and I talk about this in the overview as well of what aspects are happening just in general, but we'll get into the specifics now. The most active houses in the form of trines for you is the Virgo house of lifestyle, work, service, and your Taurus house of finances and your self-worth, valuables, and priorities. Okay, so the first thing that's happening is on the 4th itself, along with Jupiter going retrograde, Venus going direct, we have Mercury trining with Jupiter. Okay, so there can be some ideas that come to mind, and the mindset shifts or the inner work that is going on here, research, introspection, all of that has an effect, a positive effect on the belief systems we have. So you might be surprised at how well you can do, or you might discover new ways of rearranging your expenses or thinking about your lifestyle, and you can see a direct effect on how that helps your mood and also your productivity in general, makes you feel like a million. Okay, so it's just all in all a very nice vibe. Now we have this same trine happening again later in the month on the 25th, but something is different here. Okay, first of all, Mercury is no longer retrograde in the second time. Then we have the Sun, who changes signs from Virgo to Libra when this aspect forms. So the focus, wherever the Sun goes, our focus goes. Okay, so we are not focusing on the Earth matters during the time that Mercury and Jupiter are trining the second time on the 25th. Our focus is now towards relationships and how to connect with others more efficiently, your consultations, any services you provide, relationships of all type, all contracts, how we communicate ourselves so that other people understand us, all of this thing. Okay, so the focus is over there, but we're still getting some aspects of these blessings. So it seems as though the ideas that come around the 4th, that is going to lead to some more action around the 25th. We have a new perspective on the 25th. So we see things a little bit differently. We're able to see things more clearly. We can gauge for ourselves what is going to take more time, more effort. How can I shift things around? We're more agile and adaptable around the 25th. Okay. But the information that you gather on the 4th, that's going to be the seed. It's going to carry forward throughout the month, go through a cycle of development, and on the 25th, it will manifest itself. So be mindful of what you are noticing internally in the beginning and how that externalizes on the 25th. Okay, now let's talk about the other aspect in Virgo. Again, there's like a special emphasis on the 6th in this Virgo house. We have the Sun meeting with Mercury. Okay, so this is going to be a refreshing time. There's going to be some clarity coming through, and things that we have been feeling as though, it's not really clear of how you can approach a particular subject. How can you exactly improve your lifestyle or, exercise so you see the benefits? You're eating a lot, but you're not gaining weight, or you're not eating at all and you're still not losing weight, or, that's a very mundane example, but you get my point of trying something, experimenting, but things not working out. On the 6th, we'll get some type of clarity that boosts us in the right direction. Now let's talk about the other trines. So many trines going on, okay? This was a conjunction exception, yes, but the Virgo house of yours is getting so lit. All right, we have the Sun trining with Jupiter. Okay, the Sun is in Virgo on this in this particular aspect. That's on the 8th. The Sun is in Virgo, Jupiter is in Taurus. The next aspect on the 16th is again a Sun trine, but with Uranus in the same house. So Uranus in Taurus, also retrograde. The next trine is going to be, again, Mercury with Uranus in the sign of Taurus. Uranus is retrograde, and that's on the 30th. So again, this second house, your 6th house, that's getting lit up 3 times in this particular list that I mentioned, right? In total, actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, actually. Your Virgo house is just so lit. So let's talk about the Sun trining with Jupiter and Uranus, right? That's on the 8th and the 16th. This is going to bring in some blessings, lots of clarity and personal breakthroughs. And there can be a deeper understanding of your mindset, how you want to be appearing in terms of humanity, what your personal values are, what your belief systems are, and what does that mean for you in life? Are you compromising your spiritual self in the quest of something material, or is there a need to acquire something more material so that your general well-being can also up-level? In either case, there will be some clarity that comes in. Also can talk about some financial considerations. Perhaps you're shifting your finance, or you're thinking about shifting things and you need to consult certain advisors. And if you do, just be watchful that you listen to your own inner voice as well, because these planets are retrograde, yes, but it's just an optimum time to kind of gather a lot of clarity about, again, your priorities. It can be that you get an advice and it includes kind of going to great lengths to get big returns, and you might wonder, am I willing to go to such lengths for this particular thing, right? With retrogrades, there's going to be a lot of questions. Now let's talk about that Mercury trining with Uranus. We talked about Mercury trine Jupiter on the 4th and the 25th. On the 30th, though, it is going to trine with Uranus. Same houses, and this talks about your mind coming on board. You're mentally active and you are ready to take all of the changes that Uranus has created in the month of August and September that it is making, and Mercury is going to put that into action. Okay, like, well, what does that mean then? Okay, there is a revelation. Okay, what does that mean? How can I realize this in my everyday life? How can I practice this wisdom that I got? Or, okay, I recognize I have this much money, or, I have these priorities and all of that. Great. How can I put that into action? There is another Earth trine that's happening, but this is going to activate a different house. Okay. The Sun is in Virgo, and Pluto is in Capricorn, your 10th house of your occupation, not really occupation, but your profession in general, your goals, ambitions, your career life. How do you show up in the world? What is your status in life? All of that. And this is occurring on the 21st. This brings you blessings when it comes to your work life, okay? Or how you set up systems in your day-to-day living that sets you up for success in the long haul. How can you put into action small little steps every single day that is going to get you to those bigger goals? Because all of these are trines, all of these have beneficial effects. You're likely going to feel more pleasant with the revelations. It feels more like a relief, appreciation, gratitude, and these things you can materially recognize. So I'm loving it. So the Sun then moves into Libra. That's on the 23rd. And that's the date of the autumnal equinox. And this is now going to bring about a phase of equilibrium, surrender, and wisdom. Okay, now let's talk about the new moon phases. The moon phases. First, we have a new moon that's occurring on the 15th. It's in the sign of Virgo. It's the same day that Mercury in Virgo goes direct. So there is an extra oomph over there. Some emphasis can come in. Important information or revelations can occur around this time concerning your health and routines and lifestyle, right? And this new moon is going to be trining with Uranus in Taurus. Once again, a Virgo trine Uranus, but with the moon phase, right? Sun and the moon. So that's interesting. It's not a fully exact thing. There is a slight orb there. But either way, it's still part of the equation, and it brings in again more insights and clarity over the shifts and changes that have happened in the past. So we're much better able to incorporate that into our everyday life, and that's what brings about this new beginning and a new potential when it connects with the new moon. There can be these new projects that come into mind, and you're like, yes, why have I not been doing this all the time? New tips and tricks and all of that can also come about. There can be new conversations with people, building your network and things like that as well, because Mercury rules social activities. But this can be mostly like occupational for you, so networking in your colleague space, acquaintanceships, and so on. But this can lead to further opportunities down the line. Now we have a full moon on the 29th. This one is in Aries. And full moons are a time of opposition between the sun and the moon. The sun is in Libra and the moon is in Aries. And parallel to this, we have a Venus square with Uranus. Again, Uranus is in Taurus and is retrograde. Venus is in Leo, and she's fully out of shadow period on this particular day, actually. So again, Libra is getting a little bit of an oomph. The sun's movement around this time, this can be quite rejuvenating, and it can basically show you that there is a lot of support around you, that you can rely on people, that you can trust your partner, or that you know what you need from a partnership, so you can trust yourself on this. It's about not selling yourself short, not underselling your own value or products or anything, and just breaking out of a repeating cycle, closing something that has gone on for far too long within your relationship sphere, or how you're presenting yourself to others. Again, if you have your own business, this can be about how you have been conducting your business, or how you've been collaborating with others, what types of clients you're bringing in, how can you bring about a more ideal clientele, what changes need to be made right now to make those things happen. So all in all, it can be a revealing phase, but it's also highly motivational because of that Aries energy. And that, of course, the moon is in your sign, right? So you are getting this boost of motivation and energy, stamina, and you just know there is like a clear direction around this time. Now with full moons and new moons, look out 2-3 days before, after. It depends on how sensitive you are to the astrology, and you can gauge that through experience. Honestly, there's no other way to tell, but yes, if you're a little bit more sensitive, 3 to 4 days before the event occurs, you will get the first seeds of thoughts, and the feelings are already going to emerge, and you can almost feel like something is about to change. So around the 29th, 30th, it feels like, yep, we're at the tipping point. We're about to make a turn and move things in a different direction than we have been before. Very empowering month, lots of shifts and changes, plenty of good stuff here. There is eclipse season brewing throughout the month, yes, but it's not there yet, so we don't have to worry about it right now, right? So that's what I have for you. Thank you for being here. I really hope you enjoyed and that the messages help you out throughout the month. Stay tuned for the tarot reading as well. I will be uploading them soon. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you're notified whenever that's up. And if you enjoyed the reading, please do like and comment your thoughts if you have any. It will be really lovely to hear back from you, and it really helps the channel grow as well. I will see you some other time. Until then, take care. Bye.